Hello. So, because I'm a good person, I'm just going to get your mind in the zone before the video starts. There are two main things we're going to be talking about today. One is this idea that that which is local is inherently bad. And the second major thing is music, all of which will be Nigerian music because I'm Nigerian. Surprise, surprise. But let's go. Alright, so I can't speak for anybody else, but I grew up around the idea that the things that were local were bad. And by things, I mean our music, movies, actual commercial goods and services, our culture, languages, dark skin, our physical features, and basically anything else that is a part of who we are. And I didn't reconstruct and unlearn that idea until I moved to a place where local didn't inherently mean bad. The word local just meant from here. Like I actually thought the word local was synonymous with bad because it was never used in any positive context. I mean, if somebody called you a local champion, you know they didn't mean it as a compliment. In the same way that if somebody called you a woman rapper, you know they did not mean that as a compliment either. I mean, as a kid, you don't just learn by hearing the things that are said. You also learn the behaviors and attitudes of the people around you towards certain things. So some people might never explicitly tell their kids to discriminate against certain groups of people, but surprise, surprise, their kids will learn that behavior from them. And when God opened the eyes of my understanding, I began to wonder why that was. And I think one glaring reason I can think of is the after effects of colonialism. When the British came, they tried to impose a lot of their culture. They tried to get our people to assimilate and suppress a lot of the things that were inherently ours. So one of the things that was left behind was this idea that that which was inherently ours, inherently Nigerian, was inferior to that which was Western. So the social and vocational systems that had been set up by them were structured to uphold that narrative. So even after they left, that idea continued to exist even amongst ourselves. Now, I was talking to a friend who said that, well, to be fair, some things are actually not as good as we would like for them to be. So you can't exactly fault people for preferring foreign things, which I understand. There's a cycle of demand and supply where if something is of low quality, there's less demand for it, and so it is supplied less and fewer resources are allocated to producing it, so it stays low quality. The point is consumer behavior plays a huge role in devaluing goods and services on the market. So if you want to grow the naira, one big place where I want to start is by valuing our stuff more, purchasing it more, supporting it more, so that more can be allocated to producing it, and so that the quality can increase, all things being equal. But that's a different conversation and I'm digressing, so moving back to the point. It was when I moved here that I realized that people actually take pride in what is local and they uphold it, they rep it with their chest, they encourage people to choose local. One of the ways that I found that this idea that whatever was local was bad manifested itself in my life was with music. And yes, I'll explain since you asked. So when I was 13, I didn't like Nigerian music because I felt like, it wasn't real music, it wasn't good, there was no depth to the music, it was just a lot of noise. I only listened to real music. God, I was so pretentious. Now, of course, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. Not everything is for everybody. Not everybody's gonna like everything. But for me, I found that the negative opinions I had about Nigerian music were mostly rooted in the fact that it didn't sound like a lot of the Western music I had grown up listening to alongside it. Their industry seemed to be much farther along. I understood those songs in their entirety. Whereas with Nigerian music, even the ones that I could understand because they were in English or in Pidgin, I didn't because I'd never taken the time to sit down and listen to them. I mean, understandably, I was 13, so I didn't have the time to sit down and listen to music and think about how it impacted society socially or politically. I had much bigger problems, like trying to keep my grades up so that my parents didn't kill me and hide my body. And it's Nigeria, nobody will come after them if they do that. And I know I'm not the only one because I knew people who shared the same opinion about our music. But thankfully, the veil has been lifted. I went through this great big awakening, dramatic as it sounds. Everything within me longed for the culture I was away from, the culture I had never thought about too much. So of course, when I was in first year, during the aforementioned dramatic awakening, I spent a lot of time listening to a bunch of old Nigerian songs. It was the first time I had ever really let myself analyze our music within its context and listen to what it was really saying. So since you asked, these are some of the things I realized as I began to see our music in a different way. First of all, there was a lot of political music. Think of the song Dem Mama by Timaya. That song was played at parties all day, but the song was actually so political. It was about the genocide of the Odi people in Bayelsa State by the Nigerian military. He talks about the killings and rape and how they took everything from those people and pretty much burned the entire town to the ground, sparing only the bank and the church. So many children were orphaned. He tells such a painful story in that song. It's an important song. And when I actually listened and heard what the song was saying, I could not believe that I had never realized that all my life. I mean, I do understand. I was a child when that song was very popular, so like the biggest problem in my life at the time was homework, but ugh. There was a lot of music that spoke about some of the dark realities of Nigerian life, like the song Mr. Lecturer by Idris Abdul Karim, that spoke about the very toxic culture that has existed for so long of university lecturers requesting sexual favors from students in exchange for grades. There was a lot of music about the hustle to make it, which I think is a Nigerian dream. An example is that song by Two-Face, No Shaking. And that song is pretty much just Two-Face being like, hustle. Basically, he's saying you need to work to achieve your dreams because that stuff's not easy. There was a lot of music that encouraged people in their hustle, like that song by African China, No Condition is Permanent. That song literally became like our second national anthem for so long, where he's basically saying don't write anybody off because you don't know what your situation is going to be tomorrow, because no condition is permanent, except of course what the Lord has done for you. That one shall be permanent. Then of course there was a lot of music that talked about the bedu and the turn up when you finally blown, like Shayo by Bijiano. I'm not gonna lie, I love that song so much. And my friend was actually like that she's gonna set her wedding date for the 1st of August so that when people ask her when she's getting married, she can say 1st of August, not the date. Now there were songs about some other people's kind of hustle, like Yahuze by Olumentain, which I would discuss, but I'm pretty sure that song is like entirely about 419. So I'm just gonna gloss over that controversial one. There was a lot of music that spoke about the terrible political climate, like another song by African China, Mr. President. That song pretty much became our national anthem for a while. Like in the song, he addresses our leaders at different levels, telling them to do right by their people, saying lead us well, govern us well, senator well, police well, no they take bribe. There was music that talked about social problems, like that song Johnny by Yemi Alade, which spoke about the problem that some men are actively serving as everybody's man. One of the reasons why I think this song is so great is because it handles this serious issue that affects a lot of families and a lot of homes in a light-hearted way, but it still allows you to see the problem. There was a plethora of beautiful songs that Style Plus gave us, and yes, they deserve a category of their own. There was a lot of music that spoke about street culture, the day-to-day struggle, and the resourcefulness of our people. Like that song Downfall Driver by Mad Melon and Mountain Black. God, I love that song.
I am a downfall driver, swore. Chevy, you be downfall driver, swore. Not downfall driver, swore.
Another one was My Car by Tony Tetula.
You don't use my car. I said, you don't bash my car.
Then of course, there were artists that spoke about corruption, colonialism, the beauty of our people and of our culture, and everything in between. Like I can't even begin to get into the music of the types of Lagbaja or Fela Kuti or Burna Boy or Falz the Bad Guy, who are more contemporary, because I will not insult them by trying to do justice to their music in 2 minutes or less. That's an entirely different video. My point is, I started to appreciate our music within its elements and in its own context, rather than using Western music as a standard for measuring how good it was. I truly began to see the brilliance and bravery in the works of art, the music our people have produced over the years. So many of our artists have used music to speak on so much and have done so on their own terms, in their own languages, without bending to Western standards or compromising their music, even when they collaborate with Western artists. So in conclusion, I eventually came to appreciate our music and our culture for what it is, not measuring it by Western standards, but by the degree to which it was able to reflect, imitate, critique, expose, and honor the Nigerian experience. But that's all the time we have for today. You know, it's odd that I keep saying that because this is pre-recorded, but